Hey everyone, Dr. Frunky here with an awesome new knife consult for you. In front of us is the Vandeventer Gold Mini. This is an awesome little knife that comes to me by way of my buddy Tony Meter, so thanks for sending this along, Tony. This is made by Vandeventer. He is a young South African knife maker with a bright future ahead of him, and I was really excited to get my hands on this because my good buddy Tyler, who goes by Tovarish Works here on YouTube and on Instagram, got his hands on a couple of these gold models and absolutely lost his mind. In fact, I'm pretty sure somebody made a great video where Tyler was really in love with his JD knife. So I couldn't have been more excited to have someone offer to send this to me, and so I'm thankful to have this in hand. This is a special little version right here. This is the smaller version. He offers the full-size gold and then this gold mini. This is the smaller version, and it may not be the size for me, but it is nice to get to see a sense of the sort of quality and craftsmanship that's going on with this knife. So let's go ahead and get some vital signs on this guy. Up front, we are looking at just under a 3-inch blade. I would say this is probably about 2.8 inches in overall blade length right there. Your cutting length is coming in at about 2.75 inches. You're looking at about 3.2 inches back to the pivot right here. Overall, you're looking at about 6.5 inches of overall length. You've got a 3.75 inch handle with an effective grip area of about 3 inches if you're not choking up on the flipper tab right there. Right here, the thickness of the scales is coming in at 0.546, 546 thousandths, and then the blade stock is coming in at 122 thousandths. So a nice thin blade stock, and add to that the fact that it's been hollow ground. So a couple of other knives before we get into all that. We'll take a look at a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and then a Para 3. So you can see this knife is actually even smaller than a Para 3. So very, very small carry size overall. I brought out that Paramilitary 2 so we can take a look at some nice fluted carbon fiber handles. While we're looking at some other smaller custom knives, here's my BBM. That's coming in with a 3.25 inch blade. So you can see how very small this knife is overall. And here is a Jason Guthrie Scout. One more actual pretty good size comparison that I have here right now is the Nick Shabazz Millet Torrent. I'm going to wipe some of the goo off of it here. So this is another small knife. So this knife, it really is tiny. If you're looking into getting one of these gold minis, just understand that it is a rather small knife in overall size. So let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically and see what we're working with. Up front is this beautifully done blade of M390 steel with this beautiful harpoon drop point blade shape with that wicked hollow grind and that absolutely beautiful grind line as it sweeps up towards the harpoon. It's got a nice swedge up top. Try not to get my shirt reflected in that too badly. You can see his logo, JD Vandeventer, and then IKBS. So on this gold mini version, there's a single row IKBS. And it says ceramic bearings in there. And on the larger version, it's actually multi-row ceramic IKBS, so that's very special. This blade is absolutely spectacular. As you would expect for a thin blade stock with this very high hollow grind, it slices like a dream. And an M390 steel, it's absolutely a spectacular thing. It reminds me a bit of a Gareth Bull Shamwari. These South Africans really know what they're doing when it comes to making a really functional blade shape. It reminds me a bit of a Sebenza in that way. It's just a no-nonsense, very purpose-built blade. Even at this tiny of a length right here, functions really, really nicely for most EDC tasks. Moving back to the pivot, as is denoted on the blade right there, this runs on a single row ceramic IKBS system, and it is very, very smooth. For such a small knife, it really drops shut. I have to mention what may be the most wonderful part of this whole knife, and maybe you've noticed, it's the detent. Just look at this. It is so snappy. As soon as you overcome the detent, it just flies out of the handle. It just snaps really like very few other knives that I've ever experienced. I will say that the knife that came the closest was probably the Model 112 by Les Voorhees. That was a snappy little detent. Maybe the Gavco spinner from CKF, but that comes close. That doesn't really rival this in the exact same way. I love the crisp nature of the detent on this, and the way that even this tiny blade can actually just be dropped back down into the handle is quite spectacular. So I totally understand why Tyler lost his mind when he first started flipping these knives, because the action is just unbelievable. It is perfectly done. The pivot itself has got some pretty beautiful adornments right here. It's got a nice pivot screw, and then it's got a Damascus pivot collar that's done in a stepped sort of a fashion. And then even in the carbon fiber surrounding the pivot, there have been some beautiful flutings that have been done, and these are reproduced on both sides with the Damascus collar and the fluting. Just a really nice touch. You don't really see that too often, such a fancy looking pivot. I just really like it. On the larger versions, it's really quite something to behold because of how much bigger it is. Speaking of which, let's move back to the handles right here. This is a beautifully done carbon fiber scale atop some blue titanium liners, carbon fiber back spacers, sort of hidden pivot area, or not pivot, hidden lanyard post right there. The carbon fiber is really nice. There are no voids. And then he's done, there are sort of two different milling patterns that are available. As you can see, there's a bit of a line right here. You can either order these smooth, where there's none of this fluting, or you can order it fluted like this. This is clearly the fluted pattern right here. So it's quite nice. A couple of little screws right there. If you're bugged by that, that may be a thing. Looking at this, there is a very nice pocket clip. This thing actually functions really nicely. It's a beautiful piece of milled titanium. But it's got enough spring to it, it's got enough ramp to it that it works quite nicely, and he's done this beautiful cracked ice finish on it that's super nice. I really like that finish. I hesitate to call it cracked ice because that may be a copyrighted thing, but it is what it is. The liners are really beautiful in this blue, and they've got a nice sort of, maybe as a hand filing pattern going on right here in the back, so very nice touch right there. If you take a look on the inside, this is something super special right here, and you know you've got a great knife when you see this. Maybe it'll capture it. The inside of the liners are jeweled, folks. Yep, jeweled liners. That's just a wonderful thing to see. It just means that every single bit of this tiny knife has been worked over, smoothed, and perfected, and it's absolutely wonderful. How does this thing carry? Well, like I said, the pocket clip functions very well, and at such a small size and a relatively light weight, it's super easy to carry. So I'm going to put this on the scale here, coming in at 2.45 ounces. Unbelievably lightweight right here. This is a very nice little gentleman's EDC, and I can highly recommend it. So much so that as soon as I got this thing in hand, after the very first flip of that detent and flipper, I was sending a message to Vandeventer to build me a full-size gold. So this knife is so good that I went ahead and I bought my own version. I don't know how much more of an endorsement I can give to a knife except to put my money where my mouth is. So I'm really looking forward to getting that knife. There's going to be quite a special build, some different things that you might see right here, and I'll leave that as a surprise for my followers coming up in the future. But I may be picking that up at Blade Show or getting it shortly thereafter, so maybe only maybe a month or two away from now. So thank you guys for watching. Tell me what you think of the JD Vandeventer Gold Mini down in the comments below. JD is an up-and-coming knife maker, like I said, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in the future. But this gold model is a home run, in my opinion. I can't wait to bring you the full-size version. That's going to be like a 3.5-inch blade, give or take. So thank you guys for watching. Click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Leave some comments down below. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Frunke. And as always, guys, take care.